Well, after coming off two fantastic seasons, the New York Liberty has parted ways with their head coach, Sandy Brondello. Only time will tell if this was the right move, but joining us now is the next best thing to a crystal ball, our basketball insider, Geoff Magliocchetti. Jeff, welcome, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts on all of this.
Mike, thank you for having me on. You guys do fantastic work as always.
Always our pleasure. So I asked this about Tom Thibodeau when he was let go by the Knicks, and now I'm going to ask it about Sandy Brondello, who was just let go by the Liberty. Is this a smart move based on what the team has accomplished under Brondello?
It's hard to tell at this point. This really did come as a shock to many, considering what Sandy Brondello accomplished for this franchise. Winning the first championship in team history, leaving as the all-time winningest coach in franchise history at 107 wins. But I can say that there does appear to be a plan behind this. There does appear to be a reasoning behind it. New York goes into this. General Manager Jonathan Cope spoke recently about about this departure, about this transaction, and one of the things he said was, "quote." We started to see the league change last season, but we felt this year we wanted to lean into continuity, calling it a catalyst. At the same time, though, relying on the past too much, Kolb said, could be, quote, playing with fire. So it did see, and this move was not, as Kolb said, punitive, and it was not done with just this year in mind. New York, of course, placed fifth on the WNBA playoff bracket this year, and were hampered by all kinds of injuries and whatnot. But Kolb did say that considering a change in the head coaching spot had been considered at some point last season. But New York, of course, did win the title, extending the Brondello era another year. Jonathan Kolb did also mention that he wants to be more, quote, innovative in this league. He wants the Liberty to evolve with with the changing times in this association, an association defined by the talents of incoming talents of young stars such as Caitlin Clark, such as Paige Beckers, such as Angel Reese, and we're going to and call and Jonathan wanted to see the New York keep pace with that, so this little project he has going stays more sustainable and is able to contend for a longer time. This project, of course, began coming to fruition in 2023 when New York added downright historic talents to its current All-Star batch of Sabrina Ionescu and Benijah Laney Hamilton, bringing in Jonquel Jones, Brianna Stewart, and the since departed Courtney Vandersloot. So New York does want to extend this as long as they can. So I think it's also a case of if there was even a sliver of doubt in the head coaching spot, New York didn't want to have any of that because they're going into a very fateful time on the franchise timeline. Obviously, this is one of the most talented WNBA teams we've ever seen assembled on paper, and the floor results really do reflect that too. Let's keep in mind the team did win 32 games in consecutive seasons, and Colt did mention if not for injury, they could have been in the second seed on the bracket this time around, despite all the ailments that struck them throughout the season. So I think that Liberty wanted to go into the 2026 campaign without a sliver of doubt in the head coaching spot. Now there will be pressure on whoever takes this job, but he or she does come into a fantastic opportunity with this point. This is one of the most dangerous, if not attractive head coaching vacancies we've seen in some time. Of course, there's a lot to be decided so far in terms of the collective bargaining agreement. It's going to be really hard to tell what rosters will look like at this point. But Colt did seem he did seem intrigued by the idea of keeping Leonie Phoebus around. Phoebus is still on her rookie contract, as is Niara Sabali for New York at this point. To date, they're pretty much the only two members of the Liberty who are under contract for next season, and that's not unusual for the rest of the WNBA, by the way. Most of these players were on one-year deals, or at least deals that expired after this season in anticipation of the CBA coming out. So that's nothing out of the ordinary. But New York does have a solid plan in place with Phoebus in tow, and also Brianna Stewart made a verbal commitment after the loss to stick around next year. So that should be great too. And but New York does have this opportunity, and I believe they do have a plan in mind. They do want to press forward, and they wanted to go into the 2026 season with no doubts in the head coaching spot, especially if one considers the idea that yes, this was a move, this was a transaction that was in the back of management's mind for the past couple of years now. Having said that, I think it's always cliche to say, you know, if this is a human job, you don't want to see anyone lose their job at this point. But that does ring true. Everyone's human after all. And, I think this does ring in particularly large for Sandy Brondello, who, just conducted herself so well during her 4 years in New York. She, dealt with the pressure very well. Sandy Brondello is the type of coach, you bring in to guide players to the next level, to guide players to that missing piece. She previously did so in 2014 with the Phoenix Mercury. Of course, those teams led by Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner, and she was brought in to oversee New York's Ionescu era to bring in the title with so much firepower. Because I've made this analogy a few times. This giving how excuse me, giving power to the wrong person in New York, that could be like giving an Ewok the keys to the Millennium Falcon. It requires a strong pilot to come in here, and Sandy Brondello was that great pilot. She made the jump to hyperspeed in more ways than one, to light speed in more ways than one, and she really guided this team to great things. And she was always patient. She was always informative. Brondello will be missed by this group. Management did think it was time to move on, and it's clear to see they have a plan in place, and it's good to see that they don't want to have any shred of doubt going into 2026. But Sandy Brondello will be missed, and her impact on New York basketball should never, ever, ever be forgotten.
Could a new coach mess up the rhythm of the team, considering the Liberty really have nowhere to go but down at this point?
And mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and that's what the players basically are at this point. I think that there's a sense of togetherness and a sense of unity with this group. New York does seem interested in maintaining the core. Cole did say that he has the quote utmost confidence that he'll be able to keep this core together moving forward. And this team really did miss Benai Jelini Hamilton this season. Really missed her two-way talents. Really missed her working with Bebish on defense. So I think that there's a chance that there's a better chance that New York responds to this. The mantra has always been with this group, quote, we all we got, we all we need. And I think New York will really, kind of embrace that and push that forward. And the timing is almost really strong too, in the sense of what they're fighting for this offseason. This is going to be a player-led offseason, considering what's going on with the collective bargaining agreement talks at this point. Players are going to lean into each other. Players are going to come to rely on each other, and it's going to build that sense of unity. And New York does have a good bit of leadership leading these talks. Brianna Stewart, of course, holds a sizable role in the WNBPA leadership board alongside Nafisa Collier. Natasha Cloud has always used her voice on and off the floor. Isabel Harrison and Sabrina Ionescu are the team's representatives on the Players Association. So there is a lot of management talk going in at this point. I think that can only serve to build team chemistry at this point. And New York knows that that this past season was not them playing up to their expectations. They know that they can do better than this. And I think that's going to fuel them moving forward. And that seemed to be another key piece behind why this move was made. Of course, Brianna Stewart came out with a staunch defense of Sandy Brondello after the Game 5 loss. But Jonathan Kolb's mentioned, I think there's a strong trust between management and the players that the right decisions will be made. We saw that several points this year. We've seen it in the past. We saw with the addition of Emma Mieseman, that it takes a lot to, bring in a rotational player so late in the season, midway through the season, joining the team, just after the All-Star break, I believe, if I recall correctly. So that took a lot of trust from management, took a lot of trust from the players to press forward. But it was done, and the team did, manage to, accomplish a little something with Mieseman in the lineup. She didn't seem to lose a step. I think that the timing for this really kind of worked out in the Liberty's favor in the sense that, a season of an off season of unity, an off season of player-led discussions and negotiations, and that sense of camaraderie and leaning on each other will come to really help a group that will be working with a new leader next season.
Well, you touched on this earlier, Brondello, big shoes to fill. Who, in your opinion, would be fit to replace her? And do the Liberty have anyone in mind at this early point?
It's a really tough coaching landscape at this point right now. Conventional wisdom suggests the Liberty would go after someone experienced, someone with a championship panache at this point, but there really aren't too many names really available at this point right now. I know some discussion will turn to Dawn Staley, but I don't think Staley would leave South Carolina. If she were to ever leave South Carolina, she wouldn't do so weeks before training camp. The same goes for, other college coaches out there. But there is one college coach I had in mind for this type of job. Kelly Graves from Oregon would be an interesting option in my opinion. Graves, of course, worked with Sabrina Ionescu, worked with Niara Sabli back in Eugene, and the Liberty and the Ducks program does have a strong relationship. The Liberty, of course, played a Japanese club, the Toyota Antelopes, in a preseason game last May, doing so on the Eugene hardwood out there. And so there's already a strong rapport between the Liberty and Oregon programs, and it'd be interesting to see New York kind of lean into their franchise faces. Previous mentor to push that forward. So if there is a college coach in mind, I would say Kelly Graves would be a very intriguing option. Can't rule out in-house options either. Olaf Lang will depart with Sandy Brondello as well. Understandable considering they're married. So but there are intriguing options in-house. Sonia Rahman, an assistant coach, one of the top analytical minds in the game, does reside on the Liberty staff. She joined last season after a tour with the Memphis Grizzlies under Taylor Jenkins' staff in the NBA, and she also served as the head coach at MIT for over a decade. So if there's someone with head coaching experience, you might want to look into that. And she knows how to win, being the all-time winningest coach in the MIT program. And of course, her knowledge in the advanced game should be interesting. Another name I wanted to mention in-house was Andrew Wade, who took over as the director of player development this time around. Wade has strong rapport with players, and that was really evidenced at several points this season. He previously worked with Natasha Cloud and Emma Meesseman on the 2019 Washington Mystics, who won a championship. And he really developed a lasting rapport with his players. When John Paul Jones needed someone to go down to back to her native, the Bahamas, and rehab a little bit, who did she take with her? Andrew Wade. Who helped Meesseman get back in the WNBA shape when there were little practices going on? Andrew Wade. So I think his rapport with the players, as well as his head coaching experience in Brianna Stewart's domestic 3-on-3 league unrivaled, should really work out for him as well. There are also, intriguing options on the assistant coaching circuit. Three come to mind immediately. Breanne January with the Indiana Fever. She's really done a lot under Stephanie White this season to kind of help Indiana get over several certain losses, such as those of Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. Rebecca Brunson. Hey, if Brunson saved New York once, why can't she do it again? Brunson is currently an assistant on Cheryl Reeves' staff in Minnesota, has been one of the top names to kind of excuse me, has been one of the top names to get a promotion to a head coaching spot over the past 2 years. One name I really have an eye on, probably my top choice in terms of current WNBA talents, would be Christy Tolliver, who is an assistant on the Phoenix Mercury, who of course defeated the Liberty in the opening round and are now moving on to the WNBA finals. Why I'm so high on Tolliver is the fact that she knows how to win. She has done so at the collegiate level. She has done so at the pro level and is currently pressing forward on Nate Tippett's step with Phoenix. Big upset win from the 4 seed, taking down both the Liberty and the Minnesota Lynx, last year's WNBA Finals participants. And New York does want to move forward, it feels like, with both Natasha Cloud and Emma Meesseman in tow. And who was also on that 2019 Mystics team? Christy Tolliver.
Geoff Magliocchetti, basketball expert, thanks so much for providing some well-deserved insight into the New York Liberty, a team that continues to win the hearts of several sports fans. Thanks so much.